So it's a nice way to learn. It's a fun way to learn. That's it on repetition. You'll be happy to know we've had a good look at that. Chunking. Let's play a game. I'll put 9 words on the board, and I want you to see how many words you can remember. This will make it point, that's all. Ready? Concentrate. Focus. Here we go. Black, flat, criminal, division, table, dog, lawyer, long, little. Got it? Tell your neighbour what the words are.
Strategies. Or do I look for a theme? So black, criminal, lawyer. So that was in my head.
Did you just say I'm not good at quick memorisation?
I've never been good at
Okay, see, the growth mindset amongst us will say yet.
Yes.
Add the word yet. Let's not let the kids have absolutes. I've never any good at this. I've never been good at maths yet. I can't play this
It's not possible.
yet, Laura.
Yes. That's why I have all these strategies.
Well, we do have strategies, because let's think about why is this difficult? Why is it taxing us?
It's random.
One possible explanation, the words just seem to be
Out of
random.
context.
Okay, out of context, they don't seem to be
Acceptance, lawyer, and criminal.
Well, you're starting to find something now.
Yeah.
And that's interesting in itself, because the brain is always looking for connections. The brain looks for connections to simplify its learning. That's a natural disposition of what the brain does. Looking for patterns all the time. That's why. What's another explanation why this is a difficult assignment and very few people will get 9 words? Yes?
Number of words. Because if it was 3 or 4, probably all of us would spell it.
That's right. And we learned about the limitations of short-term memory. The seminal paper was 1956, a guy called Professor George Miller. He wrote the paper called The Magic Number 7, plus or minus 2. And said, by and large, our comfort zone is between 5 and 9 bits of information. But since then, most people have said, no, George, you got it wrong. 9 is too hard. It's more like between 4 and 6. So you look at your credit card and it's got digits streamed in lots of 4, hasn't it? Because it thinks we can deal with 4, we can deal with 3. Yeah. So that's the second. Now the third one you might say is, well, we didn't engage in that repetition process because short-term memory, it starts going in about 2 seconds. Very quick drop off unless you do something to consolidate it. And repetition is the main way we consolidate it. But reducing the cognitive load from 9 items to less items is another one. We do that by finding connections. Let's put the words up again in a different order and see how you go. You ready? Little black dog, flat table, criminal lawyer, long division. Got it?
Yeah.
Now tell your friends what the words were. Okay. Now this is related to music. Chunking is related to music in a big way. This is chunking. What we did then was we reduced that cognitive load, that learning demand from 9 random items to 4. We're pretty cool with 4. No issues there. How do we do that? We did that by finding connections. To find connections, you need a base level of knowledge. You need to know that long division, those words go together to make a mathematical function, right? So you need to understand the base level of knowledge. We chunk automatically, even though you said we don't learn these things. In some ways we do, Mike, because if you're a teenager and someone gives you their phone number and you want to go out with them, or you want to remember their phone number, and in Australia we have 10 digits, so we break it up, don't we? 0402 633 433. We do naturally chunk streams of data. We pause when we talk. We use punctuation when we write. We chunk in many ways. We chunk in mathematical processes all the time. So this is chunking. There's 2 things about chunking. One is what we said at the start, or you helped us with, and that is that the brain can only cope with a certain amount of fresh information on the fly. So when we have students learn stuff, that's why playing the whole piece through once without stopping to fix anything is folly, isn't it? It's too much. Professionals are so specific in what they isolate for further attention. But the second thing is, it's about recognising patterns. And the thing about music is it's intensely rich with patterns. So, using repetition as a teaching tool. Repeat after me, please. The sum of the sharp key and the flat key of the same letter name equals 7. 7. That's it. Yeah. Right? Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? And kids love that. I've seen kids punch the air, they get that excited with this. Wow, I've got a test, B major. I don't know B major, but hang on, I'm playing that Mozart sonata in B flat. That's got 2 flats. Great. 7 minus 2 is 5. If we understand patterns, we can chunk. We have more chunking options. More chunking options, we can learn quicker. Finding patterns. Who helps students find patterns in their music lessons? Who deliberately does that? That's right, because you know that it's going to simplify their learning. So we take the little Mozart, it starts like this, we all know it. On it goes, and a friend said to me once, Michael, how can you play so many notes in the right order like that? Well, we don't see notes, we see patterns. And for a musician, obviously a scalar pattern like that, scales are big pattern, music's based on scales, or a lot of it is anyway, makes it very easy to play because we understand scales, we understand patterns. But there's other way, chunking is in the eye of the beholder. You know, Mike's a jazz musician, he's probably thinking, hey man, that's the Aeolian mode, you know, Mixolydian mode, the Lydian mode. Not really, that would be cumbersome, but you could chunk it like that. Or you could say, oh, there's a phrase and it moves down by step. What do we call that? Sequence. So it's in the eye of the beholder. And for me, this is a rationale to teach theory. So I say, hey kids, we don't give you theory to make your lives more miserable. Okay? We give it to you. It's about fast-tracking your learning. You know, why do I have to do theory? Well, because then you spot these chunks and so many things that you play. And you see, you see this and you play through it and you go, and okay, some people will chunk that and say, oh, that's arpeggios, broken chords. Then you get other people who maybe understand jazz, and they go, hey, that's the world's greatest chord progression. It's the world's most ubiquitous chord progression. That's the 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. And it's in that, it's in here, it's in Schubert. If you know that one, it's got that E flat section. It's in there, it's in this Bach Prelude Book 2. You've got that in whatever it is. It's 1, 4, it's in Bach, it's in Schubert, it's in Mozart, it's in all of jazz. So how do jazz people play so many jazz standards? Well, fragments of the circle of fourths. Some people call it circle of fifths. I call it circle of fourths. 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. It's everywhere. So theory. Why do we learn theory? We invite you to learn theory because it'll hasten up the learning process. 4. Kids, a lot of them will know the form of Furley's even if they haven't played it. What should we call that? Call that the first section, A. What happens after the first section? Same again or something different? Oh, something different too. Okay. Let's call that B. What happens after B? Oh, it goes back to that first section. Okay. A, B, A. What happens after there? Something new. Right. C. What happens after C? It goes back to A. Right. So, learning about rondo form. Like I say to the kids, hey, you've won a 40% discount on your learning. Congratulations. Isn't that exciting? There's less on the page than meets the eye, not more. There's less. Because music is intensely pattern orientated, and full of repetition. Should I sing another song, Laura? What do you think? What should we sing about? Chunky, okay. If you say so. And I wonder if you know this. You know how it goes? Go! How much is that chunk that I practice? But I find really hard. How much is that chunk that I practice? It's like my security guard. I should break it down and make it smaller. I know that's the way to improve. It's like eating peas and getting taller. It's hard until I'm in the groove. So, repetition, chunky, and slow practice. Couple of nice little quotes. Stephen Heller. You sing a song. See, that would drive the kids nuts. When you practice slowly, then really slowly, then just slowly. We'll talk more about how to teach it because that's the hard thing, but just two reasons. We've talked about one, mistake avoidance, which is what Maninoff believed. If I never make a mistake in my practice, there's a much better probability that when I'm performing this thing, I won't make a mistake. Now, of course, we're all human. We have all sorts of things going on in our mind, so that's just the way it is. But we're talking probability here. Don't practice your mistakes, kids. They're very hard, and kids know. I'll say to the students, what's the hardest thing to get right if you've learned it wrong? They'll say rhythm. Yeah. I can explain it to them. That's because that's stored in the more primitive part of the brain, the stem. And good luck getting that right when you've really consolidated it. It's difficult, very difficult. They know this. Yeah, it's really hard to get it right once you've learned it wrong. Answer to that, don't learn it wrong. Be fussy. Be fussy with yourself. Save yourself a lot of time. But the second thing, most people probably not as familiar with this, is that process of myelination apparently is stronger with slow repetition. The brain loves slow learning, not just in music, in lots of things. In getting the swimming stroke correct, in getting the golf swing correct, in learning, gymnasts have their body movers move them slowly so they can feel these positions several times before they're flipping in the air doing it for themselves. Slow learning.
In lots of experiences I've had, especially in large ensemble rehearsals, you go into the rehearsal and the first thing the director says is, okay, this piece from the beginning. And so, how do we start, using that same idea as teachers, instead of just asking them to do it at home?
Well, I think you're right, and I don't understand that. Because I'm not doing this much now, but I used to do quite a lot of workshops and adjudication with choirs. And so the schools would ask me to come, just watch and give me a few tips and so forth. And it would surprise me that very fine musicians who knew how to practice were not doing the same thing in their ensemble, where if nothing else, it's a great opportunity to consolidate this, to practice slowly. Time and time again, I'd see choirs who had a passage that needed a fair bit of work. They'd do it once and then they move on to something else. I think, is that it? You're not going to leave it like that, but they do. And these are good musicians, so it is somewhat perplexing. And ensemble's a great opportunity to explain some of this stuff. Hey, there's a reason. Why are we doing that again? So we just did that, we've already done that piece. Well, we're doing this because this is a great way for the brain to learn. And what we want to do is learn a piece well and with a minimum of fuss. And this is the way to do it. Explaining a rationale. And then what we do is we awaken their senses. Just, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Now, which version do you like better? Who is the person who's telling me about modelling the wrong way? Yeah. Right. Now sing it the other way. What do you prefer? Right. Get them to experience it. How do you teach slow practice?
Slowly.
I'll see you afterwards, young man. Modelling it, yeah,
Yeah,
modelling it.
because their mind goes much faster and they think quicker.
So ways to model it?
Feel it.
Well, if you have a recording of the music that should be playing along with that is slow, they have to follow it as well.
That's it.
But it keeps it interesting as well.
And that's why people use metronomes. You know, Rachmaninoff was a fan of that. You know, he used a metronome to keep himself slightly. And a recording will do the same thing. Or you've got two drum kits in the room, or play along with me on my instrument. Or on a piano, let me play, and now you have a go. So, but the point is they need to experience it personally. I mentioned earlier this masterclass I did in Luxembourg a few years ago. What really surprised me and got me thinking about this was this boy that I'm thinking of. When I asked him to copy my playing it slowly, he couldn't. It took him 4 goes to get that tempo. Now, I would think that back then, I probably thought that if I say, practice this slowly, he would be able to do the same because he was quite an intelligent musician, an advanced musician for a school student. But he couldn't. So maybe we overestimate their capacity to copy. The thing I mentioned, Gary McPherson, about this modelling, that he's finding that by and large in instrumental lessons, the thinking is that there's a bit too much verbal instruction where modelling, non-verbal methods might work better. And part of this is probably because of the concept of mirror neurons, which you may have heard of. But the idea there, it's about learning in our imagination, really. What aspects of the brain are being activated when the monkey peels the banana? Okay, we're there, and there, the motor cortex and whatever. What about, I'll peel the banana and the monkey watches me. Monkey watches. And what they found, of course, is, wow, these neurons are firing. When you watch someone do an action, your brain looks like their brain, which confirms really the power of mimicry as the meta skill that underpins skill. The ability to copy, which we learn in infancy. And if kids miss out on that and they don't get many opportunities, they don't learn to copy well. Now, I don't know about you, but I've taught kids where they just don't, they can't copy very well. So they're slower in their skill development because of that. And again, wonderful about choirs, isn't it? We all have to, choir is a conforming activity. You know, kids, there's some things where we're individuals and you do your own thing. This is not one of them. I want all mouth shapes. Two fingers. God, this is what I mean. Open, right? They learn to copy. They learn mimicry. It's a super skill. So we use that to our advantage. Just a couple of other thoughts, strategies. Watching our students practice. When people have said, okay, today, twice a year, just say, right, today I'm just going to sit, ignore me, fly on the wall, I'm not even here, just start practicing. And what teachers have found, where is the slide? Teachers observing student practice, they were surprised to see that they moved on to a new section too soon. They practiced too large a section. They did not correct mistakes. So if you want the shock of your life, just watch your students practice. Another strategy. Right, today, give me your books. Sit there, you're my teacher. But just watch, and I'll be you, and I'm going to practice. So you put on an act. You know, so you go. Oh, okay. I need to slow that down, don't I? Talk to yourself, model, act, and play at the right octave. And I need to do it 3, and we practice the repetition, and we model how you want them to practice. So their mirror neurons are firing, hopefully. They watch. How many get to watch you? You're the expert. Get to watch you practice. Some of my beneficial experiences as a musician is when I got to watch a rehearsal. Watch what the good guys do. I was in New York City. I couldn't get a ticket to see Bobby McFerrin and Chick Corea. They're doing some Mozart stuff at Lincoln Center. They said, "Hey, we've got rehearsal tickets. If that's any good to you, fantastic. $10. Go and watch some rehearsal." That's when you know, isn't it? So a couple of ideas there, and we've talked about this. Thus far, we've talked a lot about practice and the quality of practice. So we'll spend until lunch, we'll talk a bit about the quantity. The talent code, Daniel Coyle, greatness isn't born, it's growing. Now there's another issue there. He's talking about theories of giftedness. Is it genetic or is it environmental? There's a discussion. Get to a bit on that. Talent is overrated. Jeffrey Koff. Bounce, Matthew Sion. Might have heard of that one. Sticky learning for someone else. It's all the same sort of gear. My book's got all in there as well. We all steal from other people. I think children, again, it's putting things in perspective. And we're not saying that everyone should want to be an expert and do 3 hours a day. Of course we're not saying that. What we're saying is, if whatever your goals are, please understand what it's going to take. And they might say, but who does 3 hours a day on anything? And that's where knowing how people do spend their precious leisure time can help put things into perspective. Where we do, I say, okay, today we're going to do a time inventory. So here's a pro forma, and it's got columns. Where does your time go? How much time per week? And they have to work it all out. They're talking in groups, and I see it all the time. Oh my God, this girl says to her friend, 15-year-old friend, I had no idea I spent so much time on Facebook, or on this, or on that. Where does the time go? Is it robbing your life?
It's better to be expert on Facebook or expert on...
Well, Carnegie Mellon University study, by the time a boy's 21, he's spent 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours, they say that's that expertise for you. Congratulations, son, you're going to be an expert computer game player. Yes, well, I think they do. That the choice is yours. You could be spending that playing tennis, playing the clarinet, learning how to sing, skills that you have for a lifetime. So I think it's worth exploring this side as well, because we do have limited leisure time. I mean, adults sleep for 8 hours, work for 8 hours by and large. You've got 8 hours rest, you've got grooming and taking care of yourself and all that business and hygiene or whatever. There goes a couple of hours if you've got families. What do you get? You just want to flop down and watch TV, fair enough. I'm not blaming people, but if they children want to achieve something, adults want to achieve something, it's how we use our time. And I don't ever say to children that, it's bad to watch TV and computer games. No, of course not. There's great stuff out there. It's about knowing when to get back to work and what are your goals. So how are you going to achieve that if you don't do any work? The other thing is to look at great achievement and have stories about Mozart and Beethoven. Beethoven said to that prince in Vienna, Prince, you are what you are by accident of birth. I am who I am through my own efforts. Right? He was a worker. Beethoven died. They found 50-odd manuscript books, 16 staves on each page, filled with reworkings. He was a tireless worker. He said to Carl Czerny, I practiced stupendously, often till after midnight. Right, so he's a worker. Mozart, we've already talked about Mozart. Further guesstimates are that he got his 10,000 hours up by about the age of 8.5. Because he really started practicing. But yes, opportunity. His dad was probably the best teacher in Europe. He was surrounded by music and support, and he had that passion for it, that love for it. You know, he said, Dad, my mind is always on music. I'm always thinking of music. It's his life. And it's, speaking of the age thing, about comparing children's precocity on age, his dad was a smart operator. He used to lower his age and Anil's age by a year on the concert posters, because he knew that would augment the specialness of his children. And he's only 5, no, he's 6. But yeah, smart operator. And it's the same with the jazz world. Coltrane's biographer said he started out just like anybody else, but he just worked so hard. He was the gold medalist of practicing. You know, up to 16 hours a day, they used to say about Coltrane. Now, not, you know, that's not for me either, but how do people get good at what they do? Well, if they have the desire, if they have the commitment, look what's possible. And stories abound about his practicing. I did a workshop with Bobby Shue once, who used to play with him, and said that even on the plane, if the guys are having a little Coca-Cola and a whiskey or something, but he was doing the idiokinetics, they call that, figuring a stick, playing the saxophone, working in his imagination. They're having a break at a gig. Where's Coltrane? Oh, he's in the other room practicing in a break at a gig. So the stories go. Wow, that's some drive. There's a nice interview of Paul Desmond, the sax player with the Dave Brubeck Quartet, interviewing Charlie Parker on NPR radio, 1954. It's on the internet. And he's implying to Charlie that he is specially gifted because he had this meteoric rise and he can just do this stuff. Charlie Parker is at pains to dismiss that, like most experts are, about where their ability comes from. He says, hang on, Paul, it's not like that at all. You haven't seen the process. Do you know how much I practice each day? And he said, well, tell us. And I can't remember the exact figure, it's in the book, but Charlie said, well, I've been practicing between 9 and 14 hours a day now for 4 to 5 years. Figures like that blow kids away. But if you look at that, there's 10,000 hours in about 2.5 years. So for him, it was incremental, but for the outside world, it's like the iceberg, isn't it, in the water? Wow, there's a lot that's going on there. Yep.
Can you draw a parallel between all these people, where they get the motivation to practice that much?
Where they get that from? I don't know where they get that from. How that desire takes root. Like our preface. I'm firm of mind that you can't force someone to be motivated. You're going to be motivated, and that's that. What we do is we fire arrows of inspiration and opportunity and modelling and hope that love and passion takes hold. But where they got those incredible drives from, I think, as Anne-Marie, you mentioned about kids working together, there was wonderful collaboration in these epochs of human bursts of creativity, like the Medici period, like the Impressionist period, like the late 50s for the cool school and the bebop school beforehand. Dizzy and him working together, Monk. I mean, that's part of it, isn't it? And I think that's a good note to finish this session on. We've talked about, in summary, students need to know how to drive their own learning. They must know how to get better so that we eventually become sort of obsolete in their learning life to a degree, right? Most kids have one lesson a week, so for the other 6 days of the week, they're their own teacher. They need to know what practice strategies they need to do to secure this musical phrase. And we've talked about repetition, chunking, and slow practice. and practicing little bits distributed, which certain students would, because students do all have different attention spans. I think we can play with that a bit. Look, I know that this is too much for you. Let's just try and do 15 to 20 minutes twice a day or once a day or whatever we can manage. And we also discussed models in terms of these historical models too. Great achievers, this is how much they practice, this was their desire. Now we don't want to be like that, but before you just call them gifted and talented, there's a work ethic there. It's explainable, at least to some degree. Without hopefully without taking the magic away from the wonderful artistic creations. Okay, so thanks for your interaction thus far today. Let's have some lunch.